Ladies and gentlemen, a 72-year-old man died this morning. No breaking news, no headlines, just another statistic. But let's pause for a moment, not to grieve, not to sensationalize, but to understand. He didn't die in a car crash. He wasn't attacked. He didn't fall off a mountain. He died because, like so many others, he stopped taking responsibility for his mornings. See, life after 70 isn't just about surviving. It's about choosing to live. And the morning, that quiet, sacred time between sleep and obligation, is where life is won or lost. Let's talk about 5 deadly morning habits that are silently robbing the elderly. Not just of years, but of meaning, vitality, and independence. When an older person wakes up and chooses to stay in bed, even after their eyes are open and their mind is alert, it may seem harmless, even comforting. But over time, this becomes a silent act of surrender. The bed, once a place of rest and recovery, slowly becomes a symbol of hesitation and avoidance. There's a kind of psychological weight in choosing not to rise. It tells the body there's nothing to do. And worse, it tells the mind there's no reason to do it. This small decision, made daily, chips away at a person's sense of agency. After the age of 70, every choice, the body doesn't bounce back as easily, and the mind begins to lean toward comfort and familiarity. But comfort, when unearned, quickly turns into stagnation. Staying in bed reinforces passivity. It says the world can wait, but the truth is, the world is moving with or without you. And the more you delay engagement with it, the harder it becomes to rejoin. Momentum is lost. Muscles tighten. Thoughts grow heavy. Energy isn't created by resting, it's summoned by action. There's also a deeper level of psychological impact. Rising from bed is not just a physical act, it's a symbolic one. It's a ritual. It says, I'm still here. I still matter. I still have a job to do, even if that job is simply to maintain my dignity and engage with the world in a meaningful way. The moment you rise, you reassert control. You reclaim the day before it claims you. For older people, especially those retired or no longer tied to fixed routines, that sense of ownership is critical. When you no longer have to get up, it becomes more important than ever that you choose to. Even if there's no job to go to or no immediate obligation, there is still the self to tend to. The decision to rise at a set time, to swing your legs over the side of the bed and push yourself upright is an act of discipline. It is a way to say, I am not done yet. This choice, repeated daily, reinforces vitality. It teaches the brain that life continues, that participation is still required, and that every morning is a new chance to take yourself seriously. Doing so may be the difference between quietly declining and continuing to grow, even in the final chapters of life. Waking up dehydrated is a natural state for every human being. After 7 or 8 hours of sleep, sometimes more for older adults, the body has gone an entire night without water. The organs, joints, brain, and even the skin are all functioning at a deficit first thing in the morning. Yet what do most people reach for? Coffee, a stimulant, a diuretic, something that pushes the body further into dehydration before it's been given what it truly needs. This is especially dangerous after the age of 70, when the body's ability to regulate fluid balance weakens and the thirst response itself becomes dull. Older adults often don't feel thirsty even when they desperately need hydration. That cup of coffee feels like the right thing. It's warm, familiar, comforting. It provides a little boost, a bit of focus, a sense of movement forward. But it's deceptive. The sharpness it gives often comes at the cost of deeper function. Dehydration thickens the blood, stresses the kidneys, strains the heart, and slows down brain function. It leads to confusion, fatigue, and imbalance, all things we wrongly attribute to aging itself, when in reality, they're symptoms of a poorly supported body. And it starts with that one choice every morning. What do I put in my body first? Water seems simple. It's ordinary. It doesn't have a marketing campaign. It doesn't come with a scent or a ritual or a flavor, but it is life. Every cell, every function, every system depends on it. The liver, which filters toxins. The brain, which relies on hydration to transmit signals. The digestive system, which cannot move waste efficiently without proper fluid. When you skip water and go straight to coffee, you're not just ignoring hydration, you're making it harder for every part of you to do its job. After 70, small mistakes compound. The body doesn't bounce back like it once did. So the margins get tighter. One skipped glass of water might mean lightheadedness by mid-morning. Chronic dehydration over weeks and months could mean declining kidney function or urinary tract infections. And the irony is, this is one of the easiest problems to solve. It doesn't require medication, a specialist, or expensive treatments. Just the simple habit of reaching for a glass of water, warm temperature or warm, before anything else. There's also a psychological discipline to this act. Choosing water first is a way of telling yourself, I care for my body before I ask things of it. It's a moment of service to yourself, a sign of order, of mindfulness. It's not indulgent. It's necessary. And when done daily, it becomes part of a larger rhythm that supports health instead of undermining it. 1 cup of water before anything else can improve digestion, focus, joint health, and even emotional stability. It's a small hinge that swings a very big door. And every day it's neglected, the price is paid quietly in fatigue, in fog, in aches and missteps we assume are just part of getting old. They're not. They're often just part of getting dehydrated. Movement is not a luxury. It is a biological requirement. The human body was built for motion, for walking, bending, stretching, reaching, climbing. These actions are not just for the young or the athletic. They are essential for survival, especially after the age of 70. As the years advance, what once came naturally must now be done intentionally. The body no longer maintains itself automatically. Muscles begin to shrink if they are not used. Joints grow stiff, balance weakens, and worst of all, the connection between brain and body slowly fades when movement becomes infrequent. It doesn't take much. You don't need to run marathons or lift heavy weights. But you do need to move daily, purposefully, a short morning walk, 10 minutes of stretching, light resistance training using your own body weight or a chair. These small acts send a clear message to the body. We are still alive. We are still in charge. We are still capable. When the body stops receiving that message, it begins to shut things down. Energy levels drop. Sleep worsens, even digestion slows. It is all interconnected, and motion is often the trigger that sets everything else into a healthy rhythm. The consequences of physical neglect in older adults are not abstract. They are real and immediate. Falls are the leading cause of injury deaths in people over 70. And the risk of falling skyrockets when the muscles that support balance, posture, and reaction time are left unused. When movement is dismissed or delayed, the body pays a price in stability and confidence. Suddenly, getting out of a chair is difficult. Climbing stairs becomes a negotiation. Fear takes root, and once fear takes hold, people begin to avoid movement altogether, which only speeds the decline. The other wonderful thing about movement is that it preserves dignity. Being able to dress oneself, to cook, to walk unaided to the bathroom, these are basic acts that define independence. They are easy to take for granted until they are lost. And by the time they are gone, reclaiming them is far more difficult than simply maintaining them was in the first place. That's the irony. A little effort each day can prevent a massive loss down the line. What's more, movement isn't just about the physical self. It has profound effects on the mind. A brief walk can lift mood, reduce anxiety, and sharpen focus. It stimulates circulation, which feeds the brain with oxygen and nutrients. It tells the nervous system that we are active participants in life, that we are not merely observers, waiting to be cared for or managed. Movement is ownership. Every day, the choice is simple but powerful: to move or to be moved by forces beyond your control, whether that's frailty, forgetfulness, or dependency. Choosing movement is a declaration. It is an act of resistance against decay, against passivity, against the creeping belief that aging is only about loss. Movement says otherwise. Movement says, I am still here and I still choose to engage with life. As people grow older, their social circles often begin to shrink. Friends pass away, family members move, routines change, and invitations slow down. This gradual isolation can seem normal, even expected, but it carries consequences far more dangerous than most realize. The human mind was not designed for silence. It was not built to function in emotional solitude. Social connection is not a luxury in later life. It is a biological necessity. When a person stops speaking regularly with others, cognitive decline accelerates. Speech is not just communication, it's exercise for the brain. It sharpens memory, forces organization of thoughts, and strengthens emotional regulation. A single conversation in the morning can lift mood, awaken the senses, and give a sense of purpose. Without this, the mind can drift. Days blur together. A sense of self begins to fade. And worst of all, people begin to believe the lie that they are no longer relevant. Older adults often say, I don't want to be a burden, and so they retreat. They wait for someone to call instead of reaching out. But the truth is, silence is the real burden. The longer someone stays quiet, the heavier life becomes. Loneliness is not just a feeling, it's a stressor. It weakens the immune system, raises blood pressure, and increases the risk of heart disease, dementia, and even early death. And unlike other illnesses, this one creeps in silently, masked as peace and quiet. A simple greeting can change everything. Saying good morning to a neighbor, calling a friend just to chat, joining a group even once a week to be around others. These are small acts with enormous impact. They signal to the nervous system that connection is still possible. They remind the soul that it still matters. Human beings need to be seen, heard, and acknowledged. It is how we know we exist. Social interaction is not about being the center of attention. It's about reminding ourselves that we are still part of the human fabric, that we still have stories, opinions, value. When we stop sharing ourselves with others, we start to disappear, not physically, and in many ways, that kind of disappearance is the most painful of all, because it happens slowly and it feels like it's nobody's fault, but it can be prevented, one conversation at a time. The first thing you expose your mind to in the morning sets the tone for the entire day. For many people, especially those over 70, the day begins not with peace or purpose, but with chaos. A television blaring news of conflict, a newspaper headline soaked in fear, or a smartphone screen filled with outrage. This has become a kind of ritual, mistaken for staying informed, when in reality it's more like poisoning the well before taking a drink. The aging brain is sensitive, not weak, but more susceptible to stress. It processes information more slowly and holds on to emotional content more deeply. When the first messages it receives each day are loud, fearful, or divisive, it doesn't simply brush them off. It absorbs them. That anxiety lingers. It shows up in the way you speak, the way you move, the way you interact with others. It becomes the background noise of your entire day. Over time, it even shapes your worldview, often narrowing it, making life feel more threatening, more hopeless, more out of control. There is also the issue of repetition. Bad news doesn't change much, but it keeps repeating. Louder, faster, more dramatic. And when you start your day with it, your nervous system enters a kind of fight or flight mode without any outlet. There's no action to take, no solution offered, just tension. This chronic exposure creates wear on the body, elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, irritability, and disconnection from joy. And all of it comes disguised as awareness. But awareness should empower, not paralyze. The morning hours are sacred. They are the most quiet, the most open, the most defining. What you do with those first moments shapes how your mind will function for the rest of the day. Instead of consuming negativity, create a new ritual. Read something uplifting, reflect in silence, write in a journal, pray, stretch, listen to music that calms or inspires. These aren't minor replacements. They are acts of self-respect. They affirm that your peace is worth guarding and that your mind is worth nourishing. You are not obligated to start your day with the world's problems. You are allowed to start with your own well-being. Doing so does not make you unaware. It makes you strong enough to face the world later with clarity and calm instead of confusion and fear. So, what do we take from this? A 72-year-old man died this morning. Maybe that seems distant or even expected. But if we're honest with ourselves, we know it was never just about him. It's about every man and woman growing older in a world that tells them they've done their part, that it's time to fade quietly. It's about the dangerous belief that aging is just waiting for someone to call, waiting for someone to help, waiting for the end. But that's not the truth, not unless you let it be. Because the reality is you still have power. You have choices that shape your health, your mood, your energy, and your identity. And it begins every single day with how you wake up. The 5 habits we've talked about aren't just checklists. They are life practices. Wake with intention, hydrate with care, move with purpose, connect with others, guard your mind from noise. These are not just for staying alive, they're for staying human. You are not done. Your story isn't finished. And if no one else has reminded you today, your presence still matters. Your choices still count. And your mornings, they are sacred ground. Treat them like they matter, and they just might give you back more life than you ever expected. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. And most of all, thank you for still being here. Now go out and live like it. Goodbye, and take care of yourself.